Chapter 20, The Changing Life of the People, Marriage and Family. Ugh! I just don't get it. And the test is tomorrow.
I can help. I'm John P. McCain, one of the authors of the textbook.
Are you like Alan Brinkley?
No, far better. So, you don't understand the material?
Not at all. Marriage and family life in the 18th century is just so difficult for me to wrap my head around.
Are you sure it's not your senioritis kicking in?
Maybe.
Either way, I can help. For starters, tell me one thing you need to know about marriage and family life in the 17th and 18th centuries.
People were marrying young?
Wrong! That's a misconception. People actually married when they were older, or old for that time, which was in their late 20s.
So what did they do when they were my age?
Well, I'm glad you asked. For boys, they would enter into an apprenticeship.
Now that you're 15, I'm sending you off to work as an apprentice. And remember, you're not allowed to marry.
I'm a hard worker. But before you know it, I'll be 20 and I'll finish put my savings to start my own small business and establish a household for my future family.
If he was lucky, he'd be admitted into a guild.
Hello, sir. I'm looking at entering a guild so I can become more economically independent.
You're accepted. Welcome to the guild.
Yeah!
But in reality, a lot of families couldn't afford to get the boy an apprenticeship.
Sorry, son. We just can't afford to get you an apprenticeship. You're gonna have to look around for jobs.
Oh, gosh darn it.
Okay, but what about the girls?
Well, girls definitely had a lot harder than boys. There were less opportunities for them. Some of them did go into an apprenticeship, but it was far more common for girls to find service in their family's household. In most situations, stubborn girls faced many chores and even verbal and physical abuse from her mistress.
You're going to start working for a wealthier family now, so you can earn some more money.
Okay.
I'm your mistress now. You suck.
In theory, her service was to be a form of protection, but she was easily vulnerable to physical and sexual abuse from other people in the household. And to make it even worse, if she became pregnant, there were a lot of negative consequences for her.
Hey, how are you? Oh, you got fat? Oh, you got pregnant? Get out of here! You're fired! You won't work in this town again!
So what happened to girls who entered into prostitution?
Well, in the 16th and early 17th centuries, officials were trying to repress prostitution, and if women were caught by the police, they would be either banished or imprisoned.
You spend all your time waiting for that second chance, for the breakdown we made.
You're under arrest for prostitution. Crime doesn't pay.
Wow, that sucks.
Indeed.
So, were there a lot of illegitimate babies in premarital sex?
In the 17th century, no. The rates for illegitimacy were actually pretty low.
Why is that?
For one thing, if they had premarital sex while they were going steady or something, they would simply speed up the marriage process and they'd get married pretty quickly. But there were also really tight community controls.
Why were there tight community controls?
Well, people viewed an unwed mother with an illegitimate child as a social, economic, and moral threat. So older people, priests and landlords, would pressure the young people who had premarital sex to marry ASAP.
The communities thought that an unwed mother was a social, economic, and moral threat?
Well,
Doesn't that seem a little extreme to you?
Well, think about it this way. Typically, an unwed woman was fairly poor and not economically independent. So certainly a bunch of poor, homeless women with children running around the world would damage the social, economic, and moral prestige of a village.
So, what did they do to prevent the social, economic, and moral doom from affecting the village?
Stop!
Get married already!
Stop having premarital sex!
Stop living in sin! If you give a man the milk for free, how do you expect him to buy the cow?
You just call me a cow?
Oh, God!
As you can see, if the neighbors of an adulterous couple discover the scandal, they can publicly humiliate the couple in traditionally humiliating methods like parading them around and declaring their crime or throwing rotten tomatoes at them. All of these factors and the early developments of birth control combined to generally keep the illegitimate birth rates down despite the late marriage patterns until 1750, that is.
Wait, so what happened in 1750?
Starting in 1750, the number of illegitimate babies literally soared so much that between 1750 and 1850, much of Europe was experiencing an illegitimacy explosion.
Wait, what happened? Why was there a change? This is such a plot twist.
There were two factors really that went into this. First, the cottage industry.
Cottage industry? Like as in cottage cheese?
No, not cottage cheese. Although I could go for some cottage cheese right now because I'm pretty hungry.
Off topic.
Hey, you were the one who brought up cottage cheese. Anyway, so the cottage industry grew, which gave people opportunities that were tied to the land. The cottage industry typically developed in areas where the land quality was poor and where there were typically also small and inadequate holdings. So because of this, the population grew rapidly because young people got greater independence, and didn't have to wait to inherit a farm in order to get married. Courtship became more extensive and freer as well, and it was easier to fall in love.
Aw, so love at first sight?
Well, not really. Actually, far from that. You see, with the growing population, more young people went to the cities to find jobs, so that meant a lot of illegitimate births. That's the second factor in the illegitimacy explosion.
Wait, but why?
Well, there were a lot of unwed mothers in the cities, which stemmed from the fact that when a man of a working girl's class promised to marry her, that would usually lead to sex. And then usually the man didn't uphold his promise of marriage, so really, no love at first sight.
But why wouldn't they just get married? Wouldn't she get tomatoes thrown at her then if she didn't?
Well, keep in mind that this isn't a village, it's a city, so the community is not as tight-knit as a village would be, and it's not as strict. There are also really no community controls in the city, and many of these men might have been sincere when they were proposing, but their lives were also insecure, and they hesitated to take on the burdens of having a wife and a child.
Wow, there's a lot of backstabbing going on in here.
Well, that's the 17th and 18th centuries for you. Plenty of backstabbing going on in those times.
So, I guess that's it then, right? The end of the marriage and family section of my textbook?
My textbook.
Your
Not
textbook.
yours. Yeah, that's about it.
Thanks for coming and helping me out. You're the new MVP.
Thanks, but I don't play baseball.
It's just an expression.
Textbook writers are sure going to have a heck of a time writing about your generation.
Start laughing. I'll be the prostitute.
Wait, so what's going on?
Before you know it, I'll be 20 and I'll have finished my apprenticeship. 20 and I'll have finished my apprenticeship.